Yuji Itadori's stocks have finally paid off, and he might have had an awakening second only to Gojo's. After landing his 10th Black Flash in the series, Yuji finally awakened Sukuna's Shrine Curse technique, giving us a payoff to a statement made by Gojo over 200 chapters ago. Soul Punches, Reverse Curse technique, 2 innate techniques, Simple Domain, the ability to seemingly land Black Flashes at will, and potential on the level of the King of Curses himself, Yuji is well on his way not only to becoming a contender for top 5 sorcerers, but possibly the strongest, just like he asked Gojo to teach him way back in chapter 12. Today I want to explain why Yuji and his new kit easily place him in the top 10 sorcerers of all time. Before we begin, be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, as I greatly appreciate it. 1 month ago in Jujutsu Kaisen, Yuji fought Sukuna alongside Maki, and he had none of the things I mentioned in the intro. He had no curse technique, no simple domain, worse cursed energy reinforcement, and his potential, even though said by Gojo himself to be on par with Yuta and Hikari's, it was hard to see how that would come to fruition. In chapter 250, Sukuna is wondering just how everyone from Jujutsu High managed to get so much done in just the last month. And while Yuji tries to call it hard work and perseverance, Yuta interjects and said that they simply cheated. We don't get an explanation for this until 8 chapters later, but it connects tons of pieces of the story together that were merely just clues even as much as a week ago. In chapter 222, we see Yuji and Kusakabe training, and from the looks of it, Yuji is calling Kusakabe Itadori, leading people to think they had switched souls, and while this was originally believed to be Yuji's curse technique, this was actually revealed to be Ui's curse technique. Ui can transfer souls between 2 different bodies without anyone noticing that it happened, aside from the 2 affected. This bypasses the original idea that the body will always be dependent on the shape of the soul, because as Ui describes it, if the body is the box, the soul is its contents, and he can swap the contents of the box without ever opening it. Kusakabe says that up to now, Yuji's growth has been insane, and not because of Yuji's innate talent. Even though we know he is talented, it's because of Sukuna. If you do certain movements over and over again, whether it be in sports or whatever, it'll become muscle memory. Sukuna operated his curse technique inside Yuji's body, which means his body remembers using extreme special grade jutsu. So with Ui soul swapping, Yuji was able to swap with Kusakabe to learn his curse energy manipulation in simple domain, which is pretty good, but I'll explain more on that in a second. Ui explains one person can only switch twice within a month, so Yuji's had 2 training partners he switched with, and we don't know who the other one is, but I'll make my theories on that later. Yuji being able to use Kusakabe's symbol domain is pretty impressive, considering Kusakabe activates his symbol domain not only without a binding vow, but his symbol domain has an extremely wide range. If this was done to the utmost, then Yuji should have the aspects of Kusakabe's symbol domain, like his output increasing when it activates, and other techniques weakening within its range. Not only that, but he should have also incorporated Kusakabe's automatic defense system, where he can ward off anything that invades his domain, similar to Falling Blossom in Motion. That being a technique only taught within the big 3 families of Jujutsu Society. I have no doubt Kusakabe stole this from the big 3 families and incorporated it into his symbol domain, as he shows a pretty deep understanding of it in the Gojo vs Sukuna fight. Assuming Yuji's rate of growth and how he learned Sukuna's technique, I think it's pretty safe to conclude he has all the things from Kusakabe's advanced simple domain as well, and as I said in my video about the unregistered special grade sorcerers, this was the one thing Yuji was lacking before I could comfortably say he was special grade. Yuji also managed to pick up reverse curse technique over the time skip, which coupled with his acquiring of blood manipulation gives him an advanced reverse curse technique that doesn't have the main drawback it does for everyone else, excluding Gojo of course. Normally reverse curse technique requires an extreme amount of curse energy since you have to make positive energy for it. Positive energy is made by multiplying cursed energy against itself. So if it takes 100 cursed energy points to reinforce a limb, it takes 200 cursed energy points to heal that limb. It's likely more to heal the entire limb, but this analogy will work for now. Anyway, like I said, someone like Gojo doesn't have to worry about this because his cursed energy expended is virtually always at 0, And not only that, he's got a lot of it. Yuji, and by extension Choso, can turn cursed energy into blood, and their bodies allow them to compensate for the technical aspects of the technique, meaning the cursed energy drain is even lower than I previously stated. Yuji isn't someone with an immense cursed energy supply, so the fact that he can heal from life-threatening wounds as many times as he has should just show you how overpowered his reverse curse technique actually is. Take for example Sukuna losing his arms by them being cut off. Yuji is immune to this. As long as the limb still exists, he can just reattach it with blood manipulation, and we see that in the latest chapter 258 when his leg gets cut off and he simply reattaches it in the next panel. Choso also makes use of this in his fight with Kenjaku, throwing his limb across the battlefield to grab Kenjaku and putting it back on his own arm. Yuji up to now has taken multiple shots that should have otherwise ended him, but due to possessing his overpowered reverse curse technique, not only has he been able to heal these wounds, but he is not slowing down as a result of expending so much cursed energy. To give a comparative example, Yuta and Sendai Colony use reverse curse technique on one life-threatening move from Kuroroshi and healed the limb from a point-blank granite blast with Ryu, on top of 1 or 2 other times with Uro, and they mention he's starting to see the bottom of his almost limitless cursed energy pool. Before someone brings it up, yeah, I know Yuta also used positive energy on Kuroroshi to exercise it, but since positive energy is poison to cursed spirits, I doubt it was a massive amount. At most, it's just adding another time he used reverse curse technique, so 5 in total. And on top of that, the only one of them that was life-threatening was the one Kuroroshi did whenever he put the roaches inside of Yuta. Meanwhile, Yuji has healed from life-threatening wounds 4 or 5 times now, and is still going. I know it's the same amount as Yuta, but the point is Yuji has lower cursed energy reserves than Yuta, and far lower at that, so it's still pretty insane that he's able to pull this off. Up to now, I guess I've only mentioned this in the context of Yuji's ability to amplify his reverse curse technique with it, but one of Yuji's 2 innate curse techniques is blood manipulation, one of the curse techniques of the big 3 families in Jujutsu Society. This makes Yuji extremely effective against cursed spirits, as human blood mixing with curses is poison to them. This also gives him access to Flowing Red Scale, a move that amplifies your physical stats. Choso used this on Yuji back in their fight with Shibuya, probably not by a massive amount since Yuji could still keep up with him before and after, but enough to catch your opponent off guard with an initial rush. Choso used it on Yuji and comboed him afterwards with the sudden increase in speed. You can further increase this ability by taking it to Flowing Red Scale stack, which just increases the output of the technique. Additionally, this technique can be used and focused on the eyes for an insane increase in reaction speed. Piercing Blade is also a pretty good application of blood manipulation, but as Choso mentioned, Yuji can't properly condense the blood, so his Piercing Blade isn't as effective as it should be, although this was a statement that was made pre-awakening, so it's possible Yuji could now do this even more effectively and possibly on the same level as Choso. Yuji's also been shown to make his blood explode, which could hint at him also having learned Supernova, although I don't think it's too likely. It took Choso 150 years to develop that technique, and the most blood Yuji has been shown to explode is 1 orb, and the explosion isn't that massive. But just like the last thing I said, this was pre-awakening, so he could be able to use it now. Yuji's use of Shrine isn't all that impressive as called out by Sukuna. Since he just learned the technique, the output isn't that special and it's slightly different due to the era it was manifested in, although the exact manifested differences aren't known as of right now. Yuji also only gives Sukuna a few paper cuts even when he's using Cleave, so we'll have to wait and see how Yuji grows this technique as the fight goes on. However, since he does have access to Shrine, he should also have access to Sukuna's Fire, or what we now know as the Furnace. Although it came out a good amount of time ago, the fan book, which just got officially translated to English, gives us a description on Sukuna's curse technique and says that the fire and slashes are a part of the same curse technique. It reads, "The slaughtering slash and hellfire unleashed by the King of Curses. It is said that a curse technique can normally only hold the one type of attribute, but this curse technique is confirmed to have at least two types, slash and fire. Its power is naturally on another level, even among curse techniques with special properties. Also, once activated, he can instantly cleave an opponent, dismantle them, and burn them to their very cores. There are few who can fight against this curse technique head to head for even a second. Many are reduced to nothingness before they even have a chance to fight back. I want everyone to keep in mind what I just read. Yuji now has that curse technique and the potential of the man who can use it to its full capacity. And with him constantly landing black flashes, a total of 6 after awakening the curse technique, it's only a matter of time before Yuji can fully use Shrine at its full capacity. Speaking of black flashes, Yuji has literally been landing black flashes like nothing. In chapter 257 alone, Yuji landed 6 different black flashes on Sukuna. People had originally thought Yuji landed 8 consecutive black flashes, but chapter 258 confirms he only hit 7, and one of the black flashes in 257 were Sukuna's black flash. Yuji's black flashes aren't normal though, due to his ability to perceive the soul and attack not only that, but the barrier in between 2 souls in the case of reincarnated sorcerers. You essentially get nerfed on 2 different fronts when he strikes you. Just to name some sorcerers who are extremely susceptible to Yuji strikes: Kashimo, Sukuna, Ryu, Uro, Yorozu, Urame, and Reggie. Basically, any sorcerer that was reincarnated onto another person's body could have the barrier between their souls struck and lose control over their body and have their output fall, even despite the other soul's participation or lack thereof. As Megami didn't care to come back out, but Yuji's punches still nerfed Sukuna. Beyond this though, striking the actual soul is a good way to weaken someone. Mahito mentions that Hanami had a restricted soul and they could be much stronger. Soul damage also can't be healed normally via reverse curse technique. You need to be able to perceive the outline of your soul in order to heal it with reverse curse technique. And not only is that the case, most sorcerers don't reinforce their soul with cursed energy because they are simply unaware of it. That just makes Yuji all the more deadly. So Yuji's potential is extremely high, but like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I think he's already a top 10 sorcerer of all time. So I'd like to go over why I think he can keep up with some of the strongest, and even why past opponents and benchmarks have been far surpassed. To start, I'd like to go over the disaster curses in Mahito. While Yuji has never met Dogon, he fought Hanami with Todo and almost pulled off a win. Gojo said that he wanted Yuji to one day surpass Jogo, and Yuji and Mahito's rivalry doesn't really need to be explained at all. I think Yuji beating Jogo or Mahito on his own are pretty good ways to benchmark the growth he's had. After losing Sukuna, Yuji became vulnerable to Mahito's curse technique. That would normally be a bigger deal, but even aside from Yuji's invulnerability to auto transfiguration, him and Mahito are on the same level physically, if not with Yuji being a bit stronger than Mahito is. With Yuji getting this much stronger after the time skip, it's asking a lot to have Mahito still put up a fight against Yuji. Even with idle transfiguration, it's not like Yuji can't protect his soul. He's aware of it, so he's not getting one-tapped by Mahito or anything like that. And where domain expansion would normally come in clutch for Mahito, it doesn't here, since Yuji has acquired simple domain and a pretty high level one at that, considering his simple domain withstood Malevolent Shrine for almost 99 seconds. Although it wasn't a complete Malevolent Shrine, it was still one raised without a barrier, making it the same type of divine technique it always has been. This leaves Mahito with virtually no win conditions against Yuji, who can just pummel him to death or use his slashes to strike his soul from a distance. Jogo is in a similar boat with his domain. It's not going to be able to work on Yuji. It's not a very plausible option because of how potent his simple domain is. Blood manipulation is also a good thing to use on Jogo. Since Jogo is a cursed spirit, Yuji's blood will be poison to him, and this only gets worse if Yuji ever learns to output positive energy. So far, he hasn't learned how to do that, but if he can ever actually do that, then he'll be able to end Jogo with no real issue. Hanami was getting worked by Yuji all the way back in Goodwill. The only potential problem Yuji could run into would be Hanami's curse buds, which he could ward off with Kusakabe's simple domain, simply dodge or lower his curse energy so they just bounce off him. Hanami's domain won't be too much of a problem because of Yuji's simple domain, and we don't even know what Hanami's domain is or how powerful it would be to say it would be such a major factor in the fight. Now, to talk about actual sorcerers, I will apologize ahead of time for this, but these aren't going to be very in-depth, just reasons I think Yuji beats these people and is in the top 10. Hikari has no way to protect his soul, and since he never learned reverse curse technique, he can't apply it to his soul and heal from the damage Yuji would do to it. Yuji is also able to keep pace with Sukuna inside his domain, and Yuta is either stronger than or equal to Hikari, so Yuji should have no trouble keeping up with Hikari in the fight. Yuji could beat down Hikari, as it's not like Hikari has any curse techniques to stop him. He's just a punch kick merchant that can become immortal. I'm hesitant to say that Yuji could beat Uro because I think her curse technique is a bad matchup for him, but I almost have no doubt in my mind Yuji could beat Ryu. While Ryu does have insanely high output, Yuji specializes in nerfing the output of reincarnated sorcerers, and he should have no problem keeping up with Ryu for the same reason I listed he shouldn't have one keeping up with Hikari. He can keep up with Yuta inside his domain, and Ryu could also keep up with Yuta. Also, given how Maki was able to keep up with this super weakened Sukuna, and then Yuji was able to do the same thing after his awakening, them being in the same realm of power isn't too far-fetched to say. I'm also of the opinion Yuji wouldn't have too much of a hard time beating Yuki, but standing with Yuki and going blow for blow with mass punches probably isn't a good idea for Yuji. Using a combination of blood manipulation and slashes is probably the best way to fight her, but as we all know, Yuki's durability isn't all that impressive. She was pierced by a mini Uzumaki, and her durability doesn't increase when she's using her curse technique. This next one is the last and definitely the most controversial, but I think Yuji would beat Kashimo. Now, the dishonest side of me wants to say Kashimo would only use his technique on Sukuna, so Yuji could just beat up base Kashimo. And while I have no doubt in my mind he could, no one cares about someone beating base Kashimo. They only care about if they could beat Phantom Beast Armor Kashimo. Kashimo is strong, sure, I agree. But his curse technique really isn't as impressive to me as it seems to be to everyone else. He landed hits on the weakest Sukuna so far, who had one eye and one arm. But that's it. The idea Sukuna was forced to go into his true form against Kashimo is literally nothing but an idea. The narrator doesn't imply it, Kashimo doesn't imply it, Sukuna doesn't think it in his head. There's no actual backing for the idea other than Sukuna went into his true form after Kashimo's lightning strike. He couldn't heal with RCT at this point and only had one arm. His only choice to be able to see properly and use his hands again was to do this move. Before transforming, Sukuna didn't even try to send a simple slash at Kashimo, something we know he can do without using his hands. He just played defense and went into his final form. Anyway, with that being said, lowering Kashimo's output via soul punches and ripping his soul off the vessel's body will be how Yuji stops Kashimo.